Welcome back to Q-Dads, guys, and yes, it's me, Ben, and we are taking another trip to the 80s with one of the wildest dystopian sci-fi action films going, and that, of course, is The Running Man. Go! Starring, of course, the man who was in every 80s film going, Arnie. And of course, with the brand new remake hitting cinemas this November, I thought that it'd be a perfect time to kind of rewatch the original. So let's talk about some of those iconic scenes and how this remake kind of dives into the story of today's world. But here's the thing, while the 1987 film is campy and over-the-top 80s action fun, its core ideas are still deadly serious. It was about censorship, propaganda, and a society addicted to violent entertainment. Sound familiar? Well, it's probably more relevant today than ever. So the movie was set in a dystopian future where the government maintains control through fear, distraction, and of course, television. And the ultimate distraction is The Running Man, a brutal game show where convicted criminals are forced to fight for their lives against professional killers known as stalkers. It's not just a punishment, it's entertainment. Millions tune in to cheer on the slaughter with a slick production, charismatic host, and all the trappings of a Saturday night primetime broadcast. It's gladiatorial combat, but updated for the age of television. And enter Arnold Schwarzenegger as Ben Richards. He's a soldier framed for a massacre that he did not commit. And when he's thrown into The Running Man, it becomes a fight not just to survive, but to expose the corruption of the system itself. So of course, some of the greatest scenes there were when the film first kicked off with the prison breakout scene. And now this obviously had Richards and his fellow inmates staging a breakout by cracking the perimeter collar system. It's explosive, chaotic, and instantly just tells us that this is one of Arnie's usual sharp, tactical and motivated characters. And right from the start, you know that he's not the criminal the government paints him to be. And then, yes, we get the introduction of the stalkers.
Now, we need you to give me the name of the stalker that we send out to hunt down those three desperate criminals.
Now, one of the most memorable aspects of this film is the stalkers themselves. They're essentially pro wrestlers mashed with comic book villains, and the movie treats them like sports stars. We've got Buzzsaw roaring in on his motorcycle, revving his chainsaw. We've got Sub-Zero, an ice hockey themed killer wielding deadly bladed sticks. Dynamo, who rolls around in a neon buggy firing electric while singing opera. Yeah, I know, it gets weirder. We then have Fireball, who's armed with a flamethrower and a jetpack, and it's ridiculous, larger than life, but it's of course a pure 80s spectacle. So just touching on a couple of those for a moment and their iconic fight scene. We've got Richards and his first battle against Sub-Zero. It's short but brutal, and when Richards kills him, he drops one of the all-time greatest Schwarzenegger one-liners ever.
Here is Sub-Zero! Now, Plane Zero!
It's cheesy, it's funny, and it's exactly what fans like me and you wanted. We then get possibly the weirdest moment in the entire movie, and this is where Dynamo, decked out in his glowing suit, belting out opera while electrocuting everything in sight. It's absurd and it's genuinely unsettling, and it shows how The Running Man leans into this satire, turning killers into literal performers for the audience's entertainment. But of course, the kind of the main twist of the film is the betrayal of the media itself. One of the most interesting elements is how they manipulate the footage. Killian is the game's show host, and he has the entire media machine behind him, creating fake news, editing broadcasts, and reshaping reality to actually paint Richards as a villain. Again, it's entertainment, propaganda, and the government control all rolled into one. But it all still comes down to the final showdown. And this is where Richards storms the TV building. He faces down Killian and turning the system on itself. It's cathartic, explosive, and the perfect ending for an 80s action film. Richard just doesn't kill Killian, he uses the show's own format to expose the truth, making him become a running man himself. Now, yes, The Running Man is cheesy, and absolutely the stalkers are very cartoonish with ridiculous one-liners, and it goes down the route of more of a comic book than a gritty sci-fi action film that we wanted. But beneath all of that is the razor sharp satire, which we all appreciate. It's a movie about media as a weapon, how governments and corporations use entertainment to pacify the masses, distract from real issues and control the narrative. And watching it now, it's eerie how much it feels like a warning. Reality TV, social media, algorithms, 24/7 news spins, all of it echoes into what The Running Man exaggerated back in 1987. So of course, what can we expect in this remake? The original leaned into satire, almost like an ultra-violent game show parody, but today's audience might expect something closer to Black Mirror. Imagine stalkers, but reimagined not as pro wrestlers in costumes, but as mercenaries, soldiers, or even influencers.
Back at you.
Figures that feel uncomfortably real. And also from the trailer, I can't quite tell if we actually have a breakdown of zones for Ben Richards to kind of navigate through. It looks to me like it's set in an open, real world. Of course, the 1987 film was actually loosely based on a Stephen King novel. Now, the book is much darker. Richards isn't a muscle-bound hero. He's a desperate, ordinary man running across the country while society hunts him down. And the game show isn't a camp, it's terrifying. This remake is going to lean into that raw, gritty vibe. Now, where the original jabbed at the 80s TV culture, the new one could tackle streaming platforms, viral fame, and fake news. And of course, AI. Imagine a Running Man show where audiences aren't just watching, but they're also participating in it as well. They're voting, maybe even funding the deaths in real time. But of course, how do we reimagine the stalkers? They were these, wrestler type icons. But in 2025, they might be more grounded. They might be militarised bounty hunters, cybernetically enhanced fighters. Or, of course, we will keep some of that 80s, unusualness, shall I say. But of course, going into the new film, we've got to ask ourselves a last couple of questions. Will this remake keep Schwarzenegger's whimsical one-liners? Or will it go down a darker and more grittier route, similar to the book? Will the stalkers again stay cartoony and really over the top? Or will they transform into more modern reflections of power, like celebrities, and go down a bit more of a violent route? So, what do you think at home?
Drop dead! I don't do requests.
Does The Running Man work as a clever dystopian satire wrapped in 80s chaos? Or is it just a product of its time? And what do you want from this remake? Do you want to see all those nostalgic items from the 80s brought back in? Or do you want something a little bit more gritty and a little bit more powerful for us to bite into? Well, let me know in the comments. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time with something new.